Well, it's been a while. Time for another SpongeBob rant. The last bad episode that we looked at was Cephalopod Lodge, which I currently have ranked as number 2 of my personal Rotten 5 of SpongeBob. To keep building onto the list, I want to revisit various episodes from childhood that I personally recall being less than enjoyable. And why not continue with one of the episodes that I actually feared watching? Season 7, Episode 6, Yours, Mine, and Mine. This episode. Wow. As a kid, when I saw this come up, I just changed the channel. There are episodes that me and many others considered bad, but I remembered this one sneaking its way into atrocious territory. Is it as bad as I remember? And is it worthy of joining the Rotten 5? Well, let's find out. Getting right into the episode, and something already feels off. It's kinda hard to put my finger on it.
The Krabby Kitty meal. Is it really cute? Cuter than a regular Krabby Patty?
Okay, there it is. This episode already feels way too childish. The thing about these mid-season episodes is that they either forget why the first seasons were so great to begin with, or they simply neuter the show into brainless eye-snatching slop. This episode is the latter. I know we've literally just gotten into it, but the first moments of any piece of media are really important for the audience. Why would somebody be convinced to sit through an entire episode if its opening is so poorly done? It's things like this where the audience can easily read where the producers were coming from, and it's not a great place. I wouldn't be diving this deep if the rest of the episode wasn't as equally affected by it. Even for post-film standards, this episode appears so brain dead. One-course meal had more substance than this. Also, having Patrick able to decide what he wants to order within a single minute is incredibly out of character for him. So he orders the Krabby Kitty meal and is so broke that SpongeBob decides they can split the cost and share it. As he tries to shove in the moral of the story, Patrick interrupts him, proclaiming that he already knows how important it is to share things with one another, and literally robs SpongeBob. The funny thing is, it's not even his first time doing that. Right after this, Patrick carelessly eats all the food without sharing any of it with his friend, despite insisting that he knew how that stuff worked. And after finding out that it doesn't come with a toy, even though it was never stated that it did, he wants a refund on something that he didn't even pay for himself. Do you remember the episode The Card, where Patrick painfully finds creative ways to ruin something that we know is incredibly valuable to the absolute shock of SpongeBob? Well, you see, there, Patrick was just being dumb. He wasn't necessarily a jackass. And that's why I really don't consider that episode all that terrible. But here, yeah, Patrick is an asshole. And again, everything is presented in such a childish, brain-dead manner. Like, where are they coming from? What is the point of this? Just why?
I want my money back!
Money back?
What's the problem here?
Damn it. That's funny. So to try and swindle even more money out of him, Krabs steals a patty and lazily creates the most brain-dead product for the most brain-dead episode. Remember how painfully obvious the costumes were in shuffleboarding and how terrible that episode was? That came from the previous season. They seriously haven't learned. And as another side note, remember how great of an episode Krabbyland was? They didn't even fall for the scheme of that episode. It was that damn obvious. How can they forget? And why am I still asking? So SpongeBob immediately falls in love with this new toy, even though he wasn't the one asking for it. You know, it's the little things that can make everything great, but it's fumbling them that can make it even worse. So SpongeBoy names the toy Patty Pal and is joyful about the new product. Then Patrick chimes in about how it's also his toy considering they're sharing it, and even makes fun of SpongeBob over something that Patrick himself didn't even let him explain. SpongeBob hands it over and inclines about when it'll be his turn again, to which Patrick inclines that SpongeBob is still on the clock and should be working. I mean, that's not unfair, but why is this the part of the episode that they take seriously? It is technically important to the plot, I guess, but this is the most sincerity we've gotten so far. So the day ends, the store closes, and Patrick still won't let him have his turn. Pat Boy, weren't you the one who told SpongeBob that he should learn to stand up for himself? You're really damn lucky he did not learn that lesson. So SpongeBob goes to bed laughing maniacally at the thought that Patrick won't be able to play with Patty Pal because it's bedtime, apparently. Not like Patrick doesn't already get up at 3 a.m. for a patty already. So SpongeBob strolls over to Patrick's place while continuing to shove the moral of the story down our throats. So after partying with the patty all night, Patrick still won't give it up, which leads to even more unfunny gimmicks and moments.
I get to play with the Patty Pal today.
You can't take it! It's not fair!
Patrick, just give him the fucking burger and go back under that turtle already. SpongeBob at least tries to compromise with Patrick, and even that doesn't work.
How about we trade off every hour? Every half hour? Every 15 minutes?
Like I said, only the most brain-dead kids can enjoy this. After that, Pat Boy decides to just take the patty and run for it. When you can't even make cartoon logic funny, it's probably best to take the day off. So they make their way over to Sandy's place where she tries to be the mediator and sort out their issue. I was gonna comment on how they forgot to give them helmets, but the episode did it for me. And they leave right before they try and work things out. They turn a potential animation error into a reason to not resolve the episode's issue in a way that would actually be good for its target audience. This just confirms it. They didn't want to do anything special with SpongeBob at this point. Just bring in whatever ratings they could. I mean, on the bright side, they did walk away with Sandy's advice, and it still didn't work. So Patrick just says f it and eats Patty Pal. Literally not a care in the world for how his best friend feels. But look at this poor bastard. And look at this smug bastard.
You hugged it all nice.
I did not.
Did too.
No.
I can't tell if Patrick is lying to his face or if he's dumb enough to actually believe what he just said. So Eugene just brings out a whole box of toys so that they don't have to share.
This time it's on me.
Patrick, that's my money.
Have you learned nothing about sharing?
What's there to even say about this one? It's not funny at all. There's maybe 2 scenes that made me smile. Patrick is at his worst here. A toxic mixture in hell, that's hard to say. A toxic mixture of brain rot and malicious intent. SpongeBob isn't much better, as he's willing to use cheap tactics to get what he wants. Granted, it's what he deserves, but it still sucks to see him portrayed in this way. I know at this point we should probably just expect him to act like this, but it doesn't make him any less enjoyable. Now, after all of that, the big question is, does this episode make it into the Rotten 5? Honestly, I don't think so. The thing is, despite me making a whole video about it, I can't really take this episode all that seriously. Like I said, it's probably the biggest case of childish brain rot the series has to offer. Even Cephalopod Lodge has more to offer than this. At least that episode had something to work with. This episode just all around has nothing. The plot is weak and not interesting. Even comparing it to some of the more simple plots from season 1, this is just so empty in comparison. There's no wonder, there's no adventure. They made it clear as day that they did not care about this episode and just needed something to make. It's just unfortunate that they had to use some of the worst traits of your typical post-film episode to meet that runtime. Is this episode awful? Yes, it's terrible. I'm even confident in putting it in with the lowest tier episodes of the series, but this episode is so impressively bad that it managed to evade the list for me. I honestly just don't care about it as much as others that we can discuss. I simply can't give this episode that much credit. You, sir, got lucky. And that's gonna be it for today. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.
You're a non-sharer.
Gary said that? You're off my friend list, Gary!
Mama.